This is aisle 42. Welcome to the show. This episode is all about happy, healthy dogs thriving on a plant-based diet. Yep, vegan dogs are a real thing, and you'll be glad you learned why. I chat with Laura, founder of Virchew, a Vancouver-based brand pioneering plant-based, hypo-allergenic dog food. Laura shares her vision for transforming pet nutrition with a product that not only nourishes dogs, but also helps alleviate common health issues like allergies, digestive problems, and skin conditions. We dive into the research and development process behind Virchew, including their collaborations with veterinarians and nutritionists to ensure the formulation meets all essential dietary requirements. The result? A first-of-its-kind, rehydratable plant-based dog food designed to support the long-term health of the dogs we love. Let's get into it. The future of dog food starts now. Laura, we've connected over the last year or so, year and a half maybe, and we've had some really great conversations, and now we finally get to hit the record button and share this conversation with others. I'm glad we're able to finally connect. You know that I'm not currently a pet owner, but I am an aspiring dog owner, maybe one day again. And so this conversation is going to be really fun for me personally, but the work that we've been able to do with you guys through EFG and some of the great collaborations that are in the works, I'm really glad we're able to finally connect. So to kick things off, I'm going to get you going on the first big question, and that is this. What's the one change in the pet food system in the future that would excite you the most?
Oh, to see a food that's available to the masses that would also help the veterinary industry and their goals. That would be the global thing I'd love to see. I'd love to see that we're no longer going to the veterinarian with our dogs having issues related to diet, that the veterinarians, they have to do their work for other things that the dog needs. So for me, that would be the ultimate goal, that everybody has got a super healthy dog because they're eating a plant-based food, hypo-allergenic food like Virchew, and it affects the veterinary industry and the costs that are associated with that.
That's a great answer. And that means we have to dive right in. What is it about dog food that is making and pet food that's making them sick?
To me, it makes sense that dogs did not evolve on kibble. They did not evolve on a dry diet. They evolved on, for the most part, and most domesticated in the last even 10,000 years, where they've been walking with us, if not more, is that they really have been evolving with us. And so basically, whatever is in many of the pet foods today could be things that are inside the foods that really dogs cannot really thrive on. It maintains their health when they're younger, but not necessarily helps them to live long and healthy lives. It's a deep question, Corwin. Like again, you can go and find so much information on what's inside most pet foods. But for us, it's like, why wouldn't we just feed them a beautiful plant protein diet that is hypoallergenic, that naturally solves so many issues that dogs are having through a wet diet?
Unreal. Now, you'll have to walk listeners through what it is that you guys make, because I think people are going to be leaning in a little bit on this one because you guys bring something really special to the market.
We knew when we first started, there was no question we were not going to make a kibble. We knew that we wanted to go with as close as possible to a whole foods plant-based diet for a dog. That is not necessarily an easy thing because the big F word, another one, is fiber. And so many dogs, of course, you can't have such a high fiber diet for many reasons. It's not necessarily great for many health reasons as well. So we needed to go with a diet that was not a kibble, that was convenient, that gave a feeling to the dog's human that they're really excited about making that dinner, and yet be very, very convenient and easy to do. And so we knew, as we started to go down the process, we worked with the Saskatchewan Food Development Center, and we were starting to make like a wet morsel food diet. And the food scientist there said, oh, okay, I'm going to do another run, and I'm going to order in some powders, some food powders. And I said, hang on, what did you say? Because we'd already done a feeding trial with a wet diet that we had literally made, for the veterinary clinic, and would deliver every week. And she said, "Oh, I'm going to order in the supplies." So what had happened during the time that we've been developing Virchew, it took quite a while to get to where we were at in development stages. And I said, "Hang on, I can get all these products that are now available in the human supply chain. I can now, get and use here for Virchew." So we immediately went into developing a dry product that can be rehydrated. And when we did that, it created a whole opportunity for us to have all of the check, all the right checks were happening, which would be it's a wet diet, great for the dog. It's got mostly a whole food, beautiful, highly digestible proteins and the right kind of carbohydrates, the right kind of fats, all in a dry form. And we can create something that the dogs can easily digest. And the smell was great. Everything worked. And so we ended up developing the first rehydratable plant-based diet for dogs.
Unreal. And I know that some dogs struggle. Like, I mean, we could probably go 1,000 directions with this, but let's just take some of the ones at the top of the list. Gut issues. Some dogs struggle with digestion. They struggle with absorbing nutrients. They're given the same food that they've been given forever because the big 40-pound bag comes from Costco, but they're just not able to retain that vitality and that energy and have a digestion system that's working for them instead of against them. What is it about your product that helps solve that problem?
What I love about just using food, not having to add probiotics, because a lot of foods have natural pre and postbiotic abilities. And if you're giving that tummy, that microbiome, the foods like fiber, a beautiful high fiber, or the right kind of fiber, the right kind of animal, a plant protein rather than animal protein, you end up helping to populate a bacteria inside the dog's stomach and digestive system that naturally works. This is the key, is just give them whole, pure food. When we do that, we've had, one, I just had put a testimonial last evening where she said my dog was bleeding from its butt. And they recommended to look at a vegan diet. And she said, I found you. It just completely healed my dogs. And they felt it might have been some sort of IBS or colitis that the dog had. Anyway, so that was just one. We have dozens and dozens of digestive stories that the dogs have literally turned around.
And a shiny coat is what we see. It's printed on almost every dog food bag that you could ever find. A shiny coat, great healthy skin. But the reality is that it doesn't work. Those things don't work for a lot of dogs, and they need extra support. What is it about Virchew that really helps address the skin and the dander and the coarse fur or the losing hair, those types of things?
Right. So the reason when we first started this, we started to interview veterinarian friends at first. And one of the main issues that kept coming up was with regards to skin issues, the hypoallergenic diets that weren't available at the time. And that skin issues are one of the main problems that they deal with in their, veterinary practice every day. And it's a constant. Some can be environmentally caused and some can be food and diet related. And there's an estimation 30 to 40% could be diet related. We knew at that point, if all we're doing then is taking a plant-based protein and replacing using that instead of an animal-based protein. The animal-based protein and many proteins dogs can become sensitive to. And that's essentially what has been happening. And many animals are fed the same protein every day. Not only what we were just talking about is affecting their microbiome and their immune system, but it also is affecting the skin health. And that is one of the first things that is shown, food sensitivities. The first thing that you can most likely will see will be a skin issue, it'll be a hot spot. It could be paws, it could be in the ears, it could be, in the belly area and that sort of thing. And then there's also digestion. So that's another food sensitivity issue, is if you're constant diarrhea or the dog's having difficulty with digestion. Even vomit can be a food sensitivity. So that's why you'll see it that a dog is healthy with that nice shiny coat, etc. Yes, usually they are. The part is, it's when you add in the right fats, the right fiber, the right type of plant protein, you actually give the dog all of the nutrients that it needs in order to have a very, very strong immune system. And also, the odds of them developing a sensitivity to a plant based protein is extremely low. You may have a soy issue. There could be wheat. There could be, not in the gluten world, but definitely a wheat allergy can happen, or a dairy allergy. This is where the dog can use these foods so well and so easily and get all of that beautiful, shiny, healthy coat that you want.
And this isn't brand new. You've been at this for a bit. I know there's already been thousands of dogs that have tried this. What's been and as probably all the listeners are thinking, what will their vets say? So, what are you hearing from veterinarians about this formulation that you've put together?
Well, I'm going to go back to 1999 on that one, talking to a veterinary friend in Calgary. And I said to her, talk to me about vegetarian foods. We didn't use the word vegan. And she said, well, I've got them in my clinic. So this is not new to the veterinarian industry, right? The veterinary industry, they of course, there's been food allergies have been around for a long, long time. And so at this point, it's basically, if we're talking about a hypoallergenic issue, a veterinarian right away, they're going to either recommend a vegetarian form that they have in their practice, or now they're being introduced to Virchew, and that is our goal for them to understand that we are right here in Vancouver. We will bring you like we just talked about, some of the best food possible for a hypoallergenic diet for dogs. And so we have great responses. There's nothing that, because veterinarians, again, they already sell the products. A vegetarian, not very many vegan products in the market, but vegetarian, because there will be. It's interesting. They will add chicken fat into a hypoallergenic diet, and chicken fat can still cause a reaction. So, anyways, yes, no, we're having great responses from veterinarians.
That's so great. And are we talking about little dogs? Are we talking about big monster dogs? Like, is there a type of dog that really responds well to Virchew? What's the gamut there?
All dogs, like us, when we eat a great diet, will all respond well, right? Something that we just talked about, plant-based at least, and great fiber and great fats and all those things that our body wants. The same thing happens for all breeds. When we're looking at what we're trying to address our best with regards to hypoallergenic issues. Dogs like retrievers and Labradors and Frenchies and Bulldogs, boxers, pit bulls, they tend to have some more food sensitivity issues than other breeds. And so those are the main dogs. But no, it's big, small. We have 130-pound Swiss Blue Mountain dogs. We have like big, beautiful little bulldogs, and no, we have little Yorkies. So it really
And
doesn't matter.
does Virchew help those little ones be less yappy?
Wouldn't that be great? It's anecdotal. I think they are starting to show that there is some basis behind why dogs do have some behavioral issues because of diet. There's some interesting things we've had where my dog is calmer. My dog is a different dog since going on to Virchew. I love hearing those, because we're also touching on, the important part of the dog not being so maybe aggressive or maybe nervous and that sort of thing. But we've had some really good feedback on that.
I love it. That's so good. And at this point, it's a direct to consumer play. People are able to go to your website, they're able to buy a starter kit, they can introduce the food to their dog. And it sounds like it's more of like a gradual entry, is what you guys encourage. Or what's the process for someone to get their dog to eat something like Virchew?
For us, what's really important is that we are reaching out to find the dog parents that have dogs with hyperallergenic issues, because and it is easier for them because they want to find a solution faster. So what we felt was, when we started the concept of a starter kit, some people do like to start their dog on something. They don't know if the dog will love the food right away, because many dogs have what I call discerning taste buds. And so they want to be sure about that. And the model that worked well for us, having a starter kit, say when we're working with veterinary partners, that starter kit starts the process. So literally, they don't feel like they're going home with a big bag of food that's been recommended. They can, take the starter kit, have, depending on the size of the dog, a week to 10 days worth of food in the starter kit, along with the toppers and the different treats and things that we offer. And that way they can get a really good feel for how the dog will react to it. And the other is we always recommend to do a slow transition, because if some dogs have been on a kibble diet, a dry diet, or they've been on a lower fiber diet, or they've been on a raw diet, we just recommend to do a slow transition so that they just have the best experience possible during the transition. So that's why we do the starter kit.
And can you nerd out for a moment on the ingredients list here? Like, what is in this? I mean, of course, we know in the pet industry, there's things like, bug protein. We know that there's lentils. There's all these different ways in which protein and other nutrients can be delivered. Can you share with us what's in this, Matt? If it's a trade secret, then I, of course, tread carefully, but we'd love to know.
That's the part around no, the trade secret is how we treat people and how we treat the dogs. That's our trade secret. Other than that, there's really no way for us to say, we don't want to go down that road of, oh, we have the intellectual property of this, or we have. It's really important to us that we are just being as transparent as we can, and so, and not as we can, transparent. There is no other way. You either are or you aren't. And what was important to us is, number one, just a really great quality protein that the dog would thrive on. And I started to do it years and years ago. I was cooking lentils and barley, things like that for my dog. And then we ended up going down the commercial part of finding these powders. And what was happening again, pea proteins were becoming very, very well known and recognized for being a really great protein. And so we started with the basis of a pea protein. And because we are Canadians and we're from the prairie, sort of pulse and hemp belt, hemp foods are absolutely wonderful. So we use Canadian hemp food, and the hemp hearts are beautiful balance of fats, of the omega-3s, the omega-6, all those things that are really important. And it also has a really important amino acid that other plants don't have. And so it's like a superfood amino acid, which is great. And then we use really easy to digest foods like Canadian oats. Yay! Oats are wonderful. It's like I want to bring back, I want to bring whole food, the sexiness back to whole foods. Were they ever there? I'm not sure if they're really always sexy, but really these beautiful foods. And then potatoes. Potatoes are great. Dogs love the scent, smell, and the taste of potato. And carrots and kale and pumpkin and spinach, things like that. And we use a special algae it's not harvested from the sea, it's actually grown on land, and it's called golden algae, and it really is phenomenal. It's got the high DHA, which really assists the dog with conversion to EPA and all of the good things they need for your joints and for their eyes and their ears and all of those important things. So yeah, that gives you an idea of what's inside of our first formula called the Love Bowl.
The love bowl. Yeah. Good zip folder on that one. I like it. Let's go back to symptoms for a second. Can I just say that one of the things that always drives me crazy about, meeting a lovely dog is that its breath is less than lovely. A lot of dogs seem to struggle with oral issues and wretched breath. Some of the most amazing dogs I've ever met have been the smelliest when they get close. What does your food do for them in that regard?
I've had 2 border collies that have been vegan dogs, and there is no smell. There's no scent, like none from the body scent, none. Their breath is wonderful. It's not anywhere near a typical kibble breath. And what's interesting is we've had some customers that have cameras in the back, and they're actually showing, the dog's gone where they go and do their thing, and that the wildlife is eating their Virchew poop. And I just love that. Like we got this full cycle here going on.
So it's your fault that there's more raccoons digging up for bugs in the grass.
Possible. I know it sounds crazy, but even the poop does not have the smell like you would, the scent, when you pick up a regular kind of a big dog just went by and say, oh my God, the smell of that. And you get on your shoe. It doesn't happen with, certainly there's a scent, but it's absolutely nothing like a typical dog food poop.
That's amazing. So when we call them pet parents, is that what you said?
Yes, pet parents.
When pet parents try Virchew for the first time, they're in it for a week or 2, maybe longer, depending on their transition. What is their experience after that? Is it sort of, do they go all in and just serve this style of food, or do they maintain a bit of a, smorgasbord? What do you see?
Yeah, that's a good question. And because we go through such an extraordinary process in order to become a complete and balanced, we had a team of 3 board certified veterinary nutritionists, which is, by the way, what everybody should be looking for is a food that's been complete and balanced according to AFCO standards, which is the American Feeding Control. There's certain guidelines, something like our guidelines here in Health Canada, and how much we should eat per day and what we should have of nutrition. So that's really, really important. And yeah, so that's essentially what we go through, is that we do a complete and balanced diet.
So they can just, once the dog's comfortable with it, and they just go all in.
Absolutely. Now we recommend though they stay with one diet. So we don't know what they'll be feeding if they're only feeding half. And we say, definitely, if you do choose to do that, check with your veterinarian. Are you sure you're getting the same amount of nutrients that we know is in the full-time Virchew diet that has all the things you need, the right balance of vitamin D, you need all the right fats, you need the right nutrients. And so if they're feeding a raw diet half, I'm not sure on the raw diet, are they giving a supplement? So you have to have a supplement that would complete and balance it, because just a dog eating meat does not work. It has to have other nutrients. And so we just recommend that people stay either with one or the other. And if they do part-time or half-time, that they make sure that they check with their veterinarian first.
Makes sense. Now, a lot of the people that we have on the Aisle 42 podcast, they do a lot of demos. They go to grocery stores, they stand at the end of the aisle, and they hand out little cups. You're not likely doing this in grocery stores. So where do you find pet parents and their dogs?
We started out, which was really great. During COVID, we just had a really good list. So we started basically right in smack dab in the middle of COVID, and we just put it out to our list. And so they found us via knowing about Virchew. The next was we went into events like Planted Expo here in Vancouver, because we really wanted to position this as not your typical dog food. Go into events where our first group, we call our first dancers, of course, right, which are plant-based, thinking vegan, that would have a dog. That's been a really, really great kind of a process to be introduced to many of them. And what we're in the process of doing is we wanted to go with, Corin, in the world of marketing, is what's duplicatable. We just sort of throw out, here, try this and try that, and do a bunch of different things. We didn't know if that would be duplicatable or not. So for instance, we could stand at Pacific Spirit Park here and at the dog park entrance, right, and hand out treats and samples and that sort of thing. So that's one option. We haven't started that yet, but that's one option. And the other is to work with businesses like we've talked about here, with regards to veterinarians. Could be a way for of course, for them to learn about Virchew. Groomers could be a way to learn about Virchew. Working with organizations that you and I are talking about here right now that we'll announce soon, that could also be affiliates and partners with Virchew. And basically our sample shop here in Kitsilano, we have open houses and people come in and get samples and things like that. So that's basically how we've been doing it so far.
So people can walk by with their dog, knock on your door,
Absolutely.
and you give them treats?
Come on in. We got all kinds of samples here. We want to feed your pooch.
That's so good. Well, I love this chat, and I love all the conversations that we have. And I'm so glad that we're able to, share Virchew with Aisle 42 listeners, and hopefully spread it far and wide. I think the work that you and your team and your collaborators are doing, it's important work. And I think that you're making people's lives and families and their pets happier. So I think that's really cool.
Thank you very much, Corin. We're looking forward to the future of that more and more.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Aisle 42. Head over to virchew.com to order your puppy starter kit today. Seriously, don't wait. Click, click, bark, bark. Okay, that's it for me. I'm Corbin Hebert from Ethical Food Group, and I'll see you in the future.